With Darryl Burley, who's here for the Hall of Fame Honors Weekend, and he's being inducted to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as one of its distinguished members. Darryl, I like to hear a little bit about your wrestling origin story, how you got hooked up with wrestling, and why it was a sport that you decided to pursue when you were a young person.
It just came by happenstance. Uh, Eighth grade PE, the PE coach or instructor just happened to be the varsity wrestling coach at the high school.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, well, during this segment or session, we're going to do wrestling. And he just sent me out there, and the kids in that class at the time had been wrestling for years and years and years. Many of them went to
They
camps.
start like this tall.
Yeah, and that was the first time I ever stepped on a mat. And I stepped on a mat, and I was like a fish in water.
It just felt right.
It just flowed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're floating, you're scoring, right? Were you any people, coaches, or other mentors early in your career that got you really, hooked you up and helped you out and made a difference in your development as a young wrestler?
The most notable one is Alan Butch Campbell. And I definitely believe in God. There's a God. And when my father was deployed to Germany, we moved into the town of Pemberton, and we moved on Harvard Road, and Alan Butch Campbell just happened to be 3 houses up. And he had been a varsity wrestler at the high school, and eventually became varsity captain and placed third in New Jersey State.
Right.
So we call him Butch affectionately. And Butch was the one who recognized my talent, heard about my talent in middle school, and he just groomed me. He was my main source of technique early on.
Yeah, and I mean, technique is real important, but you've got to have a situation where you feel confident in yourself. And how did you develop that in high school? I mean, you went on to win the state championships, right? In a real tough state.
Yeah, real tough. Forgive me, Bruce Baumgartner's from New Jersey, never won a state title. Mr. Burroughs won one state title. The Jersey is no joke.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I have to credit those trace of qualities that you mentioned. It comes from my family. My father served 28 years in the Army, Vietnam Bronze Star, jumped into Dominican Republic 1965 with 82nd. My uncle here, United States Marine, 67 to 70. 67 to 70.
Oh, God bless you, man. Thanks. I appreciate your service. That was a tough time.
So it was just natural that my village would, and did instill a lot of those traits that you mentioned. I got to mention my mother, my grandmother, Mary Webb. We call her May affectionately. I just had an excellent village.
You and I are from the same generation. Actually, I'm going to ask you a story that included me. So, 1978, I was wrestling for New York at the Junior Nationals in Iowa City. And I remember 2 really tough Jersey kids. One was Bruce Baumgartner, the other was you. You ran into Andre Metzger, I think, in that tournament. Well, what are your memory? Because that's a big national event. You were just finishing up high school, and you had a good showing.
Well, only thing I remember is that I had only been involved in freestyle for 3 weeks.
Okay. 3 weeks and you're in the finals.
and being thrown against Andre Metzger.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute.
But I mean, did you realize then that, I got this stuff? I can do it. I just made the finals of the nationals, right?
At that tender age, I never focused on, I got this stuff. For me, at that time and period, wrestling was so much enjoyment for me. It gave me so much pleasure. And I only focused on the fun. That's what drove me and gave me my impetus.
So talk to me about the choice of Lehigh. I mean, people know about the program over the years being strong wrestling program. How did it fit you, right? Why did you decide to go down there?
It fit me picture perfect. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. My father sat me down before he went to Germany. He says, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What are your plans? what are your goals? And I said, well, I want to become a national champion as soon as possible. I want a excellent education because I'm going to go to law school and graduate and become a lawyer, attorney. He says, what about travel, distance? And I want to be a little bit away so that you can't sneak up on me,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
close enough that if I wanted to come home, I could.
Yep.
So we looked at the map. He says, Levi,
Yeah,
now.
no, but they must have needed or wanted you, man. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to be on your team, right?
So when Coach Turner came to the house to talk to Mom and Dad and me, my father, I won't never forget this. Both my parents are passed now. I love them and miss them. But my father said during the conversation with Coach Turner and Coach Lehman, can you excuse yourself? I want to speak to these men alone. Fast forward 20 years later, I'm back visiting my dad and we're in the family room. He says, remember I asked you to leave the table when Coach Lehman and Coach Turner came to recruit you?
Yep.
I'm like, yeah. He says, this is what I said. I said, I'm going to be deployed to Germany. Can you assure me that the child that I have now will be the same when I come back? And you know what my father said? He said, when I came back, you were better.
Better's better than the same, though, right?
No, but I was better because of Dad Turner.
Awesome. Well, you know what? You did something very few people have done, right? Win the NCAAs right off the bat, right? 1 year, first year, right? What was special about that year? What were you able to do as a wrestler to go from one of the good recruits to someone who was on top of the NCAA podium?
The truth is, at that time, being naive, I didn't recognize names, I didn't recognize records. It's just like, I just went out each and every day just to have fun. And, at no time during that year did I ever have pressure. Pressure came later on when I started to understand the sport, because when I was in high school, I really had no idea about, who were the big gun top dogs on the collegiate level. Everybody was the same to me. And that's how I approached every match my first year.
Yeah, and when the last match of the year was on the top of the podium for the NCAAs, you were able to win it, right? Yeah. Obviously, you had some growth in that first year as a college wrestler.
Well, that's because the competition Lee afforded me.
Yep.
Our schedule we wrestled still the best during the year. And, Coach would say, the most important bouts are not the one you win are the ones you lose, because that's when you learn.
Right. Well, there's also a real important part of wrestling success is consistency, right? And you were in all 4 NCAA finals, correct? How did you maintain the consistency in your performance? And you have to improve every year because everyone else is improving too. How did that work for you, that you were able to step up to that challenge?
Because regardless of the outcome of each year, I always had this plan that the following year, I have to do more. Okay, win, lose, or draw, I am not going to walk off the mat and say, that guy might have put in a little bit more than I did.
Right.
And I always knew in my heart, regardless of the outcome, that I paid the most.
Yeah, talk about some of your teammates and maybe the other influences during your college career and after. Obviously, nobody gets successful by themselves.
No, not at all.
Great.
One of my greatest teammates is a guy named Peter Schuyler.
Right. Didn't you wrestle him in the state tournament?
Wrestled him in the state
By the way, I wrestled him once when I was in high school. I know who you're talking about.
From Bound Brook.
Oh, yeah.
So I wrestled him in state finals, and God bless me, I won. And we went to Lehigh in the same recruiting class.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing off the bat I learned about Peter is that he was the top-notch workout partner. His body had no recognition of pain. And I said, you know what? That's the guy I need to stick closest to. So he was my training buddy, number 1 workout buddy. We had guys in the room like Mark Lieberman.
Yeah.
2-time national champion.
Big man, though.
Big man. Well, when I first came to Lehigh, I said to myself, there's a national champion in the room. So I've got to figure out what is his game plan. And I would, first year, true story, I told Mark, I would peek behind the locker room, see what he was doing. I was like, okay, well, He puts his shorts on the same way I do.
Right.
He puts his socks on the same way I do. Tie his shoes up the same way I do. I said, well, it's got to be something different. We went up in the room, and that's when I found the secret.
Yeah, it was the training.
It was the training.
That's awesome. I mean, talk about what are your top memories from your college part of your career? Things that really stand out in your mind looking back. God, it's 40 years, right? It's been a while.
First national championship out at Ames. Senior high school.
Right.
States are over.
Uh-huh.
I'm sitting in class, and over the PA system, you hear Darryl Burley come to the principal's office. Well, in those days, that's not
a good thing.
That's not a good thing. So everybody in the class said, "Ooh, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes in trouble." I'm like, I know I didn't do anything. Oh. So I go downstairs, and at the time the principal was named Mr. Harrington. Mr. Harrington says, "Darryl, you have a visitor." Walk in the room. I didn't know it then, but I found out later. It was Harold Nichols from Iowa State.
Yeah, just came right to school.
So and we call him Nick. Nick speaks in a special way. He says, "My name is Harold Nichols. I'm from Iowa State. I heard about you. I came out here to see what we can do. I want to tell you about Iowa State program." So we're talking. He says, "What weight you want to wrestle next year?" I said, "Well, Mr. Nichols, I never cut weight. You know, my last year in high school, I wrestled 29, and I would like to go to 34. You can't do that." I said, "Well, sir, why can't I do it?" He says, "That's Mike's spot. Nobody touches Mike."
Mike Land.
Fast forward, NCAA finals, bout's over, God bless me again. So I go to shake Mr. Nichols' hand, and he won't let my hand go. And he says this, and I'll take this to my grave. "I should have let you wrestle off."
Well, you did wrestle off. It was in the finals of the national. Now that's a good story. I love it. So after college, you did some freestyle. Just talk about that experience. I mean, yeah, you didn't go to the Olympics, but I mean, you've been overseas. You represent our country. You were able to push yourself at a different level.
Well, actually, I won the Open.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which is huge.
which is huge. And then after winning the Open, I got accepted into law school.
Yeah, that's a pretty important thing to weigh, right?
Yeah, and I said, you know, I've done all I wanted to do in this sport, and it's been good to me, brought me umpteen enjoyment. You know, it's time to go on to your next phase. And
did you enjoy law school? Was it the kind of challenge that you thought it would be?
Only reason I got through law school was because of wrestling.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
I mean, it was like, you know, I'm training from ground zero.
Right. Well, yeah, no, but I guess you're not afraid of a challenge, right? As long as you're having fun.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't fun that one. That one wasn't fun.
You've done some coaching, right? Talk about that role. I mean, you're doing some coaching right now a little bit, right? I mean, what do you enjoy about the coaching aspect of our sport?
What I enjoy about the coaching aspect, and I kind of see what Coach Turner saw in it, is that the bond that you generate with these young athletes, and especially when they buy into the program.
Right.
And I've had a few that bought into the program, and at the end of the season, they're like, you know, gee, golly, see how far I came.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can see the difference in a human being when you invest in them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they've got to want it, too.
You know, and that part I've learned, you know, I have no control of that. It's like, you know, I'll show you the tools. Now you need to decide whether or not you want to pick them up.
So we talked a little bit before the interview, and I was telling you all the Lehigh shirts I saw kicking around, and you know, ran into Tom Scully and a few people I know from Lehigh, and
Frick.
you know, the year I was inducted and got my award, it was when Mark Lieberman went in.
Okay.
You know, so I just wanted to get your thoughts about that family. You said it was your best decision, but what makes Lehigh wrestling special? I mean, you're not one of those big public schools in the Midwest that throws everything it has at wrestling and all sports. Lehigh has this special culture. Could you tell us about that?
The culture at Lehigh University It started before Coach Turner, but my tenure I was there with Coach Turner. And the culture is that he wanted you in the end to be the best human being possible. And combined on that, his task while at Lehigh is he never had scholarships.
Yeah, that's true.
Not a penny scholarship money. Everything was based on need. So imagine how he had to redouble his efforts to get the athletes that he has gotten throughout the years.
Well,
You know,
plus you have to develop them once you get them, and people there became great wrestlers.
he had this forte that he was going to make you whatever your plateau was, he was going to get you there. Now each have different plateaus, but he's going to get you there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So when you got the call from the Hall of Fame and they said, Darryl, we're going to induct you as a distinguished member, what was that like for you? And now having the chance to have family and friends here with you to celebrate this, what were your thoughts about them saying, hey, Darryl, welcome to the Hall of Fame?
Well, to begin with, I was receiving these calls from Oklahoma, and I would look at my phone, I'm like, I don't know anybody from Oklahoma. and I didn't pick up. It was like a day and a half. So finally, one of the Lehigh guys calls me up, Jim Riley. He says, you been getting calls from Oklahoma? I'm like, yeah, Jim, but I don't know anybody in Oklahoma. He says, Darryl, you need to call him. So I call out here, and I get Leroy Smith. And then he let me know, and I kind of sat down a little bit, took a deep breath,
Yep.
and then started informing my family. And that's when I realized the magnitude of this honor, and I'm grateful and humble for it. For me, it validates everything that the people in my village did for me.
Right.
Okay, that just gives me the reason. Okay, some of them are not with me now, and I just hope they can look down and see that the time, effort they put into me to develop me as a human and a man, it was worth it, and I hope I've satisfied them.
Well, I want to congratulate you. It's a wonderful honor. I guess I'm from your generation. I saw you wrestling in high school and in college, and just excited for you to have the opportunity to spend time with family and friends, and enjoy the fact that you've created a legacy here in wrestling, right?
Thank you.
And thanks for the interview. Appreciate you, man.
And I didn't do it by myself.
No, never is.
There it is.